everyone, and welcome to the featured tipster spot here at Tipstars. I'm delighted to be joined today by Ross from the Football Masters. Good morning, Ross.
Hello there, everyone. Hello there, Chris.
Hi, Ross. I think probably to get things going, if you could just introduce yourself to the listeners and give them a bit of a background about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Just to start off, I've been hugely interested in sports ever since I was a child, really. Had a huge passion since the age of 7. Undertook a lot of sports, you name it, football, cricket, tennis, badminton, moved up to American football and things like that. So my passion was always into sports. Then I started getting involved a little bit into learning how managers would work, how players would work, what would motivate them. And so it's always interesting for me to find out exactly what managers are looking for, why they're looking to buy particular players, why they're looking to sell particular players, and so on. So I always had a huge interest in sports in general. And the real reason for me getting involved with the Football Masters, in fact, and setting that service up was I'm part of a few fantasy competitions with quite a few mates, in fact. So I won the fantasy football last year, currently leading this one. I also won the fantasy F1, just recently won the fantasy NFL as well. And so I just felt I had something to offer to the general betting public. So I decided to start the Football Masters literally days before the season started in August, and testing a few various racing systems as well. So I'm looking to maybe get one or two of those up and running in the coming months. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background there.
Great. And so is this season the first season you've actually run Football Masters?
It is, yeah. It's the first time, yeah.
Okay. And obviously it's the fantasy football that led you to the realization that you could succeed as a tipster. But
Yeah.
without giving away your edge or any of your secrets, can you sort of outline for the listeners how you go about making your selections?
Yeah, there's really mainly 3 things. I don't get too focused on too much about form. I do look at the last results, so I do look at that, see how many goals they've scored and so on, and obviously the opponents that they played. I look at their current league table, and then I get a gut feeling as to what I think is going to happen in this particular game. What I've decided to do for the particular service is to Dutch the results. So I pick 3 games which I feel I can accurately predict the scores on, and then pick 2 selections for each of the 3 matches. So yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
Okay, so there's quite a bit of your own gut feel, if you like, in the process, as much as a deep dive into the statistics.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I tend to find that it takes literally about 5 minutes of my time each time, so I don't need to pore over figures or stats or anything like that.
Okay, do you tip matches involving your own team then? Does your heart rule your head when you come to those matches?
That's really interesting, actually. Yeah. I try to stay away from that. I know unless I know my team is likely to win. I mean, one of my teams is actually one of my teams. My main team is actually currently doing well in the Premiership. So because of that, I tend to stick to games that I feel that they're definitely going to win and have a really good gut feel as to how many goals they're going to score as well. So yeah, I try and stay as impartial as I possibly can, but obviously, I'll only pick them if I genuinely believe that they're going to win by a certain amount. So yeah.
Okay, and I suppose being that you focus on the English Premier League, that's your focus. When the season ends in May, does that give you a break then from tipping until next August, or have you got anything planned through the summer months?
Yeah, no, there will be a break unless there's a major tournament on. So if there is either the Euros or the World Cup, I'll be looking to do that as well. So we won't have the European Championships now until next season, or next year. So there'll be nothing for this summer until mid-August. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, one of the questions I get asked a lot from potential members of services is why the provider is actually selling the information rather than just using it for their own benefit. I'm sure you asked it yourself
Sure.
plenty of times. Would you like to explain to the listeners why you operate Football Masters?
Yeah, it was basically, I had no intention this time last year of setting up any service with regards to footballs. It's only really because I won the Premiership competition. I thought, did really well in that, and I just decided why not sell it on and pass this information on to punters who could make money as well from it. As you're well aware, there's going to be some winning runs, there's going to be some losing runs as well. So I'm well aware of that. But typically, I thought this is something that I could at least pass on to punters out there who are interested in betting on football.
It's interesting there that you touched on the losing runs. Obviously, all tipsters, regardless of what some of the emails that we all get might lead you to believe, they all go through losing phases, whether that's a losing week, a losing month, even.
Sure.
How do you deal with that yourself? I mean, obviously, personally, it's affecting your own betting, but as you're now providing that to other people, how do you go about dealing with a dip in form?
Yeah, I think, my background is actually in finance. So I learned a lot about money management, risk management, how to manage yourself mentally and emotionally as well when dealing with losing runs. Because one of the things, I mean, even in my own experience in betting, because I've joined betting services in the past, mainly in horse racing, to be fair, and obviously I got caught up in the whole, you end up with two losing months and you end up unsubscribing from the service. One of the things that came up for me was really the importance of managing your risk. I really do feel it's important in whatever you're dealing with, whether it's trading shares or whether it's betting or property or whatever. I really do believe it's important to know your risk up front. And so I always advise people to stake maybe between 1 to 3% of your total betting bank on any one bet, or even better, on any one day's worth of trading, or sorry, of betting, because I think that's, if you can control yourself emotionally, that's the most important thing. You need to be in the game. I keep saying that to people and to clients as well. You need to be in the game, because if you stake too much on any one bet, looking for that really big win, which is what a lot of bettors look for, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just feel that if you do that, it can emotionally devastate you if you were to lose, and also your betting bank would just dry up very quickly. So I believe being in the game is the way forward in betting. It's the same with trading as well. And I believe to do that, you need to adopt and be disciplined to a sensible stake management. And I always advise 1 to 3% is good. I wouldn't go higher than that, because at least that way it gives you, 30 plus bets to be wrong. And obviously you don't expect to be wrong for 30 bets in a row, but it's just adopting a good money management, really is. And one of the things I also say as well is one of the best ways to gauge that is actually to, if you were to stake £100 on a particular horse, for instance, and it were to lose, how would you feel? And if you felt emotionally devastated by that, then that's a clue to you to bring the stake levels down. If you find the same thing for, let's say, £50 and it emotionally hurts you, again bring it down to a level that you're comfortable losing. And I think once you've got to that stage, then you won't be emotionally devastated, but you'll be able to be a lot more positive in your betting going forwards, because losing runs happens with pretty much any system. So it's important that if you can get through that losing run, and go through the winning runs. I mean, even the Football Masters is a perfect example of that this season. We started off incredibly well, but had a real lull for about 2 months, and in the last few weeks, it's dramatically increased again. But it's important to get through those lulls, because if you don't, because we even had a few subscribers who obviously unsubscribed after those losing runs, but the point is they missed out on the 60 odd points that we made in the last 2 or 3 weeks alone. And this is the point. You need to be in the game continuously. So yeah, so sensible money management, risk management is crucial. Yeah, I'll keep it to that.
Yeah, I totally endorse everything you've said there. I think discipline and patience are the two buzzwords that we use in Tipstars when we're trying to obviously educate, if you like, people as to how to get the best from following a service. And the profile that you just described of people jumping ship once there's a couple of losing months, I see that time and time again, and time again the service comes back. If it's got a long-term history of success, it will come back. And you've
Exactly.
got to have the patience to stick it out.
That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, you've only been doing this a short period of time as a tipster. But have you got any standout moments since you started tipping?
Do you know, funnily enough, I mean, I've had a few standout moments. I mean, as I said, we started off the season very well. We in the first few months, we made 61 points profit, had that lull as I explained. But I'd say, well, I mean, we were down to about, even though we were 61 points in profit up until December, 2nd of December 2018. We went down to 11.44 points, so that was a big drop. But since then, I'd say the last few weeks, since the 29th of January, in fact, so almost 4 weeks now, we're up to 76.7 points. So that for me, I'd say, was because it is very relatively a short time period. So I'd actually say that 60 odd points profit in the last 3 or 4 weeks really has been standout for us so far.
Okay, and have you received any advice from people since you started tipping? And is there one piece that stands out to you as being something you do really now hold dear?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I can't really think of anything that comes to mind. I've learned so much just generally about betting and tipping, but I mean the only thing that really comes up for me is really just having sensible money management and risk management. That's the only thing in betting. I really do believe that's the way forward. If you want to read more into form and things like that, that's fine. But I would say money management is the standalone thing. Yeah.
Okay, and you touched on at the beginning, obviously your interest in a whole number of sports that you've played, watched, and whatever over years. What's the main thing you watch now away from football? Do you have a favourite sport that you would follow?
Yeah, I'd say there's a few. I still watch a lot of the tennis, but mainly the Grand Slams and the World Tour finals. Those are the main. I look at the key matches, so I don't watch every game, but certainly from the quarterfinals, semi-finals onwards, I'm looking at the tennis. I watch a lot of the American football as well, the NFL. I do watch a game pretty much every week, if not more than one game. And some cricket as well. I used to watch a lot of cricket. Obviously, it does take up a lot of time, so I don't watch as much cricket as I used to. But I watch the odd one-day game, and certainly the 2020 stuff as well. So yeah, those are the three main sports.
Okay, and if you could change one thing in the football or tipping world, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I would say, well, with regards to football, I would actually say the introduction of VAR is long overdue. I believe it's a really great idea to have that. Yeah, I just think there's too many players trying to fool referees. Referees have a difficult job as it is. So the introduction of VAR is fantastic. The one thing I would say with that is perhaps have a similar system to tennis, which you're allowed to have three unsuccessful sort of challenges per set. I would like to see that introduced to football actually. So three unsuccessful attempts per match, which comes from either the on-field captain or the manager. I would like to see a system like that. So I think VAR can be developed. That's the one big thing there. And with regards to betting in general, I would say really the closure of accounts, I think is a big talking point, and I think that needs to be looked at as well. I'd love that to change. The way my philosophy is if the bookmakers are happy to take money from you time and time again, they should be able to pay out as well. I've had my own account restricted with a bookmaker, mainly on the doubles bets actually. I used to place a lot of doubles bets, both in football and in horse racing, and they restricted my account. And I wasn't too happy with that, so I had to jump ship to another bookmaker. So yeah, I'll say those are the two main things there.
I think that's something that most people who sort of are involved in betting have fallen foul of, unfortunately. Multiple bookmakers often that you will be restricted with, and that's something that does make life difficult when you follow a service. Maybe not so much in football, but certainly horse racing. It's very difficult often to get a reasonable size bet on now for people. So I totally agree that that's something that does need to be looked at. As regards VAR, I think we could have a whole different discussion on that, because my viewpoint is totally opposite of yours. So we maybe park that one, and we'll have a chat about that some other time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And finally, Ross, let me put you on the spot and ask you: is it Liverpool or Man City to win the league this year?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure if I should reveal this. I'm actually a Liverpool fan, so that's why. I actually think I actually predicted this was going to happen. Actually, strangely enough, I was telling my friends at Christmas when I think we were 7 points ahead. I said City are going to catch us. It's just a question of whether we can see it over line. It's been typical of Liverpool when we have been in positions where we could cross that finishing line and win the Premier League. It's happened twice, and we fell at the last hurdle both times. And it doesn't surprise me. It's starting to look that way again. I've personally predicted that Liverpool are going to win by 1 point. I think we will see it over the line. We can't rely, obviously, on goal difference. I think City will win that clearly. So I think we're going to do it. Yeah, I think Liverpool are going to win by 1 point. Yeah, that's my prediction. So,
well, we'll have a chat in May and see if you're right.
That's right.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, Ross. It's been really interesting. I'm sure the listeners found the insight really interesting as well. And I wish you every success for the remainder of the season.
It's great, Chris. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you to everyone that's listening. Thank you.
Thank you. And remember, you can find out more about Football Masters by visiting the featured tipster page at tipstars.tips. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to introducing you to more top tipsters in the coming months. Bye for now.